So good morning, students. Can you see the slide? Am I audible? Can anyone reply?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today I'll take you to Unit 1 of risk management. That is Introduction to Risk Management and Risk Identification. Well, in the earlier class, we understood the meaning of risk. That is, risk is the potential of loss or anything which is an uncertain event. Some people are still waiting outside. So first we'll try to understand. So what is risk? So you can see the slide over there, students. It's a possibility of adverse results flowing from any occurrence. So it can be an undesirable outcome, however, not necessarily so. The notion implies that a choice having an influence on the outcome sometimes exists. So risk arises out of uncertainty. So risk is a condition. Please understand, students, risk is a condition where there is a possibility of an adverse deviation from a desired outcome that is expected or hoped for. See, in investment management, we understood that standard deviation is used to measure risk. So if the standard deviation of the security was high, then what we concluded? We concluded that the security was risky because standard deviation measures the volatility associated with the financial instrument. So risk is what? It's an uncertainty of loss. So if it is known for a certain that a loss will occur, there is no risk. Correct, no, students? If you know that if you go in this particular direction, you will meet with an accident, then you will not go, you'll try to avoid. So what we say, risk is uncertainty of loss. Whereas the term called as peril, P-E-R-I-L, peril is a source of loss. It can be fire, windstorm, etc. Then we have hazard. Hazard is what? Hazard is a condition which increases the likelihood of loss. So these are some of the definitions of risk. Then very important is we need to understand the types of risk. So the first classification is based on the consequence of the risk event. Then the second classification is based on the nature of the event. Then the third classification is based on the nature of environment. We'll try to understand each type of risk in detail. So we will take the first one now, that is classification based on the consequence of risk event. Now, when I say classification based on the consequence of the risk event, now it can be a speculative. There are two types, The first one is called as speculative risk, and the second type is called as pure risk. Now, can anyone tell me what is speculative risk? We have earlier studied speculation, speculative risk. Yes. Speculative risk. Yes, anybody? The risk associated with speculation. Yeah, what is that? Yes, anybody?
Prediction, sir.
Speculation means prediction. Okay. Any other answer? You can even reply in the chat box, students. What do you understand by speculative risk? Or can anyone give me an example of speculative risk? Someone told me prediction. Sir, prediction. We predict. Yes. Nisarg, Kedar, Deepika. What do you understand by the term called as speculative risk? Kumar, Kusum, many are there. Minaj.
Yes, sir.
Vani, you can reply in the chat box, ma, if your audio is okay. Vineet has replied, uncertain degree of gain or loss. Okay, very good. Vineet, it can be gain, loss, or staying nothing. That means it can be either gain or loss or nothing. So let me give or explain speculative risk. So example would be like, gambling or speculation in the equity market intraday. You buy that the price will go up. Okay. But if the price comes down, then you will incur the loss, right? So the risk associated with speculation is called a speculative risk. See, speculative risk are those which may give loss or profit. For example, students, if investor purchase 100 shares of say XYZ company, so he or she would make the profit only if the price of the stock increases, but would lose the money if the price declines, correct? So speculative risk include, it can be like, betting on a horse race or investing in a real estate or going on to a business for yourself. In these situations, both profit and loss are possible, or even staying nothing, right? So that is what is called as speculative risk. The second type that is associated with the classification based on the consequence of the risk event is pure risk. Now, what are pure risk? Pure risk have no possibility of a positive outcome. Sometimes, something bad will happen or nothing at all will occur. Any example, students, you want to give for pure risk? Any example you want to give for pure risk? Okay, let me explain again pure risk, then you can give an example. Pure risk are associated with uncertainties which may cause the loss. So what happens in a pure risk situation? Either a loss occurs or no loss occurs. So there is no possibility for gain. So these uncertainties may be due to perils such as fire, floods, or may even arise from human action such as theft, accident, etc. So am I audible, students? Can you see the slide? Can anyone reply yes, sir?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was basically the the speculative risk and pure risk. So you can understand it is the classification based on the consequence of the risk event. Then we will go to classification based on the nature of event. Like what nature, due to the nature, like the fundamental risk and particular risk. So when I say fundamental risk, it is exposure to loss from a situation affecting a large group of people or firms. Please understand. So fundamental risk basically it is an exposure to loss from a situation affecting a large group of people or firms. So example of fundamental risk, can anyone give me, which affects a large group of people or firms? Yes, anybody? What are the examples of fundamental risk? Yeah.
So changes in government policy or rules.
Okay, very good. So which leads to unemployment. So that is again a fundamental risk. Very good. Then, so basically students, please understand fundamental risk. A fundamental risk is one that affects the entire economy. Now, what we are seeing today, the COVID-19 pandemic situation, almost we have completed more than a year. So is it not affecting our entire economy, nation's economy? So that can be a classic example, right? See, a fundamental risk is one that affects the entire economy or large number of people or group within the community. So it leads to, for example, cyclical unemployment, sudden decrease, sudden decision of war or earthquakes or this pandemic COVID and terrorism. So observe that these risks are caused by conditions, please understand, that are beyond the control of individuals. Can we control COVID today? No, it is beyond the control of an individual. So fundamental risk can be addressed only through social insurance and government programs. So insurance is not a viable solution for in case of fundamental risk. Now, particular risk. Now, as the name only suggests, a particular risk involves losses that arise out of individual events. That is, possibility of loss which can arise from a situation related with any specific individual events. No, it can be a robbery or theft, or any losses arising out of robbery or theft will directly affect an individual, right? So what is a particular risk? It is a risk involving losses that arise out of individual events and are felt only by particular individuals and not by the entire community or group. So individuals rather than the society bear the responsibility for dealing with these losses. No, it can be burning of a house or an automobile accident. So particular or specific kinds can be addressed through the use of private insurance, loss prevention, or some other risk management technique. So fundamental risk and particular risk were the two types of risk based on the nature of event. Then we'll go to the third type, that is classification based on the nature of the environment. So we have again two types of risk here, that is the static risk and dynamic risk. Now the moment we come across the term called a static risk, it is the factors that do not change. Static means what? Standing in the same position, right? So factors that do not change or which changes only in one direction, that is called a static risk. So examples like risk factors which include age of an individual, which increases over the time, and the past criminal offenses which are fixed. So what is static risk? Static risk imply events taking place within a stable environment. They have a regular pattern of occurrence over time and can be reasonably predicted. So typically students, static risk belong to the realm called state of nature risk. They are even sometimes caused by natural events. The second type of the risk associated with the nature of the environment is dynamic risk. Also, what is dynamic risk? Dynamic risk, on the other hand, are typically present in the social environment and are produced by changes in the economy and even the society. So they affect a large number of individuals. They are generally considered less predictable than the static risk, since dynamic risk do not occur with any precise degree of regularity. So what could be the example of dynamic risk? Market related events like unemployment or war. That is a classic example of dynamic risk, right? So we understood the three types of classification and risk associated with these type of consequence. The first one, what we understood, was speculative risk and pure risk. Then the second was fundamental risk and particular risk. Then the third type, that is based on the nature of the environment, we understood the static risk and dynamic risk. Okay. Now, very important, we should know the sources of risk. That means, how do we come to know that there is a risk associated? Right. So we have external sources of risk as well as internal sources of risk. So when we speak more about the external sources of risk, we have, let me ask the students, because you already studied this. Any example for external sources of risk? Yes. External sources of risk. Any example?
Political risk.
Okay. Very good. Political risk. Stephen, very good. Any other? See, what is external source of risk? Let me
Changes in
explain
market
first. Forces belonging to the external environment affecting the particular business, a business enterprise, cause external risk. Like, these risks are the risks which are outside the organization, not within the organization, outside an enterprise, a business enterprise. Like what Stephen told just now, a political risk, which is outside the organization, right? But whatever changes happens, that will directly impact my organization. So it is called as an external source of risk. Any other? Stephen told political risk. Any other?
Sir, economical risk and natural risk.
What do you mean by economic and natural?
Sir, market conditions
Hmm.
for economical risk and natural risks, earthquake and floods.
Oh, very good. So these factors are external factors basically, right? So external means what? It is outside the organizations. So can we control the external risk? It is beyond our limit. So economic factors means what? These are the important causes of external risk. They result from the changes in the prevailing, market conditions. They may be in the demand. They may be in the form of changes in demand for the product, price, fluctuations. So example could be due to market fluctuations, a well-known product of a firm may either lose its demand or may even occupy a larger market share. Then we have the natural factors or the risk associated with the natural factor is natural risk. What we are studying now, external source of risk. So these are the unforeseen natural calamities over which an entrepreneur has very little or no control. For example, the natural events which happen, that is earthquake, hurricane, or it can be cyclone, lightning, tornado. So these factors are again external to the organization, which are beyond the control. So it is coming under external source of risk. Then the last one, what Stephen mentioned, was political factors, or the risk associated with political factors, political risk. So these again have an important influence on the functioning of a business, both in long term as well as short term. So for example, today we have one major party ruling in the central. So tomorrow elections might, after a couple of years, the elections might come and the party changes. So what happens? The industrial policy changes, the trade policy changes, and the budget amendments to various legislation changes. Okay, so this is again an external source of risk. So basically, when I say external source of risk, it is beyond human control, right? So we cannot control as an organization or as an individual. The second source of risk includes internal sources of risk. So can we control the internal sources of risk, students?
Yes,
Or
sir.
can we?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So internal source of risk is what? Within the organization. So they can be avoided or mitigated. Correct? So which are they? Like you have within the organization, you have technological factors, like physical factors, then human factors, then operational factors. So these factors, the risk associated with the internal source can be either avoided or mitigated. So internal risks are caused by the internal events. Please understand this. Internal events associated with the working of a business enterprise. Then internal risk can be controlled to a great extent through efficient handling. Then internal source of risk adversely affects the working of an enterprise, and it can likely to cause loss for some time. For some time, likely to cause loss, but it can be avoided or mitigated, or the risk can be still reduced compared to external source. Then some of the factors associated with internal source of risk, it can be worker strike or breakdown of machinery, carelessness or dishonesty of employees, management relationship. These are some of the classic examples of internal source of risk which can be avoided or mitigated. Okay. Next, we'll go and understand methods of handling risk. Now, all of you have understood the various types of risk and even the source of risk. Then how to handle risk basically. So that we'll try to understand now. So all of you are understanding?
Yes, sir.
Now, methods of handling risk. So you can see over there in the slide, there are 5 methods. One is risk avoidance. We will try to understand each point in detail. Then we have loss control, risk retention, non-insurance transfers, and the last but not the least, insurance. We will take the first point now, that is risk avoidance. So all of you know by this time the meaning of risk. Risk is what? The possibility of a loss, people, organization, and society. The first one what we have taken is risk avoidance. So risk avoidance means, the word only says, it is the elimination of risk. It is the elimination of risk. Investor can avoid the risk of a loss. See, one can avoid the loss in the stock market by not buying or shorting stocks. Correct? So if you do not take any position in the stock market, I can avoid the risk. See, the moment you take a position in the stock market, either a long position or a short position, then there are all possibilities that there is a loss or there is a risk associated with that particular position. So instead of that, I do not take any position in the stock market today, because today I feel that the market is volatile. So what I'm basically trying to tell all of you is, I'm avoiding the risk. So by avoiding risk, investor may be avoiding many pleasure of life or the potential profits that result from taking risk. So those who minimize the risk by avoiding the activities are usually, they are not in a position, we say no sometimes, hey, you are not a risk taking guy, you are not a risk taking girl, right? So basically I try to avoid the risk by taking a position in the market. And basically what happens, any activity involves some risk. All of you know that. Where avoidance is what? Not possible or desirable, loss control is the next best thing. So what do you understand by risk avoidance? I'm trying to avoid the risk by not doing anything. Right? By not taking any position in the market, or by not stepping out of my house. So that is something called as avoiding the risk. I can avoid that. Then the second method of handling risk is loss control, or controlling the loss which happens due to the risk. It works by either loss prevention, which involves reducing the probability of risk, or loss reduction, which minimizes the loss. And loss prevention requires identifying the factors that increase the likelihood of a loss, or by eliminating the factor or minimizing its effect. So, for example, proactive measures taken to prevent or reduce the loss evolving from accident, injury, illness, or it can be due to property damage. Another example of loss control could be speed and driving drunk, correct? So it can greatly increase the accident proportion or the ratio. So how can you control that? Not driving after drinking alcohol is a method of loss prevention that reduces the probability of an accident. Or you drink and don't drive, vice versa. So you can reduce the loss. Or driving slower rather than rash driving is another example of loss prevention and loss reduction, since it reduces both the probability of an accident, and if an accident does occur, it reduces the magnitude of the losses, correct? And since businesses actively control losses because it is a cost-effective way to prevent losses from accidents and damage to property. Then you can see the third method of handling risk is retaining the risk. That is called as risk retention. Now, this is very tricky to understand why one should retain the risk. Risk is consciously retained rather than transferred. Please understand. Risk is consciously. That means I know that there is a risk, but still I want to retain the risk rather than transferring the risk. Why I do that? It is also known as active retention and risk assumption, which is handling the unavoidable or unavoided risk internally, either because insurance cannot be purchased for the risk because it costs too much, or because it can be a much more cost effective. So usually students, retained risk occur with greater frequency but have a low severity. So example could be smoking cigarettes can be considered a form of passive risk retention. So many people know that smoke, without knowing the many risks of disease and of the risk they do know. They do not think it will happen to them. Right? So though many people know that smoking and drinking alcohol is injurious to health, they know, but they want to retain the risk in spite of knowing. It can be due to various reasons, the pleasure what it gives, or the enjoyment what they might get, or it can be rash driving. So what they'll get, rash drivers, they get pleasure. So there is always a greater risk to speeding, since it always takes longer to stop or change the direction. And in a collision, higher speeds will always result in more damage or risk of serious injury or even death, because higher speeds have greater kinetic energy. That means the motion will be at a fast. So you know that there can be some accident which is going to happen, but in spite of that, you retain the risk with you. Right? Then we have non-insurance transfers, the fourth type of handling risk. So transfer of risk from one party to another party other than an insurance company is called non-insurance transfers. So what do you mean by this? So this is also called contractual risk transfer. Contractual risk transfer. So non-insurance transfer risk can also be managed by non-insurance transfer of risk. We have three major forms of non-insurance risk. So they are basically, students, please understand, contract, hedging for business risk by incorporating. Now, when I use the word contract, what we are studying now, we are studying the non-insurance transfers. So what is this contract? A common way to transfer risk is by contract, is by purchasing the warranty extension that many retailers sell for the items that they sell. The warranty itself transfers the risk of manufacturing defects from the buyer to the manufacturer. So what I'm doing here, I'm transfers of risk through contract is often accomplished or prevented by a hold harmless clause. Then we have hedging. I have very often used the term called as hedging. It is a method of reducing portfolio risk or some business risk involving future transactions. The possible decline of a stock price can be hedged by putting a buffer by buying a put option for the stock. So what is hedging, students? Financial hedging? Any student? Hedging. What we are studying now, we are studying non-insurance transfers. In this, the first one was contract, what we understood. The second one was hedging. So what is hedging here? Yes, anybody, even if it is wrong, you please explain me. Any definition you know about hedging? Yes, anybody? Stephen, hedging. Many of you have done your projects related in equity market, related in broking firms, in mutual funds. So you should be knowing the meaning of hedging, right? So it's a non-insurance transfer. What is hedging? You can reply in the chat box. Vinit was told reduction in risk, but how, Vinit? Ranjit, Padmaja, 47 students are there. I think anyone can tell me. Shruti, you have done your project in broking firm. So what is hedging? Have you taken your position in the derivative market? So what is hedging basically?
So reducing the risk.
Okay,
by
that's what Vinit has mentioned, but how? How you will be
opposite securities.
opposite? Okay. Yeah, Prashant is, no, Prashant, your voice is not audible, Prashant. Vinit has mentioned to set off potential losses. Prashant, your voice is not audible to me. Ranjit Potiwal, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Okay, let me explain what is hedging. Now, students, if you purchase is a method of reducing the portfolio risk. That's what Vinit has mentioned. Or some business risk involve future transactions. So what you do, why do you purchase in equity market or in the cash market? That the price will go up, right? The possible decline of a stock price can be hedged by buying a put option for the stock. So I purchase in the cash market thinking that the price will go up. But if the price comes down, then what happens? I will incur the loss. So in order to avoid that, so what I do, I enter into put option. Put option is what? Selling. So hedging will not give me profits, or hedging will not incur me losses. but my market to market position will be zero. That is no profit, no loss. So that is what is called as hedging. I'll repeat once again. Hedging is a method of reducing the portfolio risk or some business risk involving future transactions. Now, the last one in case of non-insurance transfer is business risk by incorporating. That means investors can reduce their liability risk in a business by forming a corporation or a limited liability company, correct? So this prevents the extension of the company's liabilities to its investors. Then the fifth method of handling risk, which is very, very important and a popular one, is insurance. Now, how do you define insurance, or what do you understand by insurance? It is a contract represented by a policy in which an individual or entity receives financial protection or a reimbursement against the losses from an insurance company. Correct? The company pools clients' risk to make payments more affordable for the insured. I'll repeat once again. It is a contract represented by a policy in which an individual or entity receives financial protection or reimbursement against the losses. Who will give? From an insurance company. The company pools clients' risk to make payments more affordable for the insured. Now, we will try to understand the list of insurance company in India. So there are both, we have the major, that is Life Insurance Corporation, which is one of the major insurance company in India. Then we have HDFC Life Insurance, Max Life Insurance, ICICI Prudential, Kotak Mahindra, Aditya Birla, Tata AI, SBI. So today, almost all the banks are selling insurance. Then we have Reliance Nippon Life Insurance, Aviva Life Insurance, Sahara Life Insurance, Shriram, Bharti AXA. So as of now, total more than what we can say is more than 50 insurance companies are operating. More than 50. Okay. So that is what is about methods of handling risk. Then we have management of risk. See, risk management is the identification, assessment, and prioritization of risk, followed by coordinated and economical application of resources to minimize, monitor, and control the probability or the impact of unfortunate events. Now, risk management means what? Is the acceptance of responsibility for recognizing, identifying, and controlling the exposures to loss or injury which are created by the activities of the concerned. So insurance management involves responsibility for only those risks which are actually insured against. Correct? So risk management is what? Is the practice of defining the risk level of a firm desires, identifying the risk level of a firm currently has, and using derivatives or other financial instruments to adjust the actual level of risk to the desired level of risk. So risk management is closely identified with the various types of instruments that can be used to manage. So that is how we can manage the risk. Very, very important. Some of the objectives of risk management also we will try to understand in management of risk. See, first is it ensures the management of risk which is consistent and supports the achievement of the strategic and corporate objectives, correct? So why is risk management so important, students, in any organization or for an individual or for the society? See, today we have the entire nation. We are crying and we are fighting towards COVID-19. So we should be in a position to manage the risk at the earliest, right? So already we have lost a lot of life. in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, and in other states also. So if we do not manage the risk now, so probably 50% of the population might be affected, or the number of deaths might be increasing day by day, because all of you know that India is a very densely populated country. So here there are two challenges in front of all of us. The first thing is we need to be economically and financially strong, and the second thing is we should be healthy. So these are the two challenges in front of us. So we have to manage both, right? So what we're trying to understand here is the objectives of risk management. So provides a high quality service to customers. And the third objective is it initiates action to prevent or reduce the adverse effects of risk. And it minimizes the human cost of risk, where reasonably practicable, which should be practicable and feasible to all the people in India or in the country or in the organization for that sake. And then it should meet, very important students, the statutory and the legal obligations. Minimize the financial and other negative consequences of losses and the claims. Then minimize the risk associated with the new developments and activities. Then last but not the least objective of risk management is be able to inform decisions and make choices on possible outcomes. Then we'll try to understand the last concept for the day, that's called risk management process, which is also very, very important. So how to identify the risk, we all come to know. We even by this time we understood the different sources of risk. But now we'll try to understand the risk management process. So risk management consists of all the efforts to preserve the assets and the earning power of a business. Since risk management has grown out of insurance management, the two terms are often used interchangeably. So risk management has a much broader meaning, covering both insurable and uninsurable risk, and including non-insurance approaches to reduce all the types of risk. So students, basically the risk management, the process of risk management consists of 6 steps. Or, the first step is identification of the loss exposure. You can see the slide over there. Then analyzing the loss exposures. Then based on that, select the appropriate risk management technique. Then implement and monitor the risk management program. So we will try to understand each one of them in detail now. The first one in risk management process is identification of loss exposure. See, when we speak about identification of loss exposure, first thing is we have to identify the potential risk. So risks are about events that when triggered cause the problems, right? Hence, risk identification start with the source of problem or with problem itself. So what we have to understand here is the source analysis of the problem. That means risk sources may be internal or external to the system. That is the target of risk management. Then we have to understand the problem analysis. We have to do the problem analysis. The first one was source analysis. Then the second one is a problem analysis. So what is this problem analysis? Risks are related to identified threats. For example, the threat of losing money, the threat of losing a project, the threat of abuse of privacy information, or the threat of accidents and casualties. The threats may exist with various entities, most important with shareholders, customers, and even with the legislative bodies such as the government, right? So when either the source of the problem is known, the events that a source may trigger or the events that can lead to a problem can be investigated. Then after that, after the investigation is done, the chosen method of identifying the risk may depend on the culture, industry practice, and compliance. So then we'll try to understand the second process of risk management, that is analyzing the loss exposure. So after identifying the potential expected loss, the second step is we have to analyze the loss exposure, correct? So here, once the risk has been identified, they must then be assessed to understand the potential severity of the loss and to the probability of the occurrence. So these quantities can be either simple to measure in case of the value of a lost building, or impossible to know for sure in the case of probability of an unlikely event occurring. Whereas students, please understand, the fundamental difficulty in risk assessment is determining the rate of occurrence, since statistical information is not available on all the kinds of past incidents. Then after that, we will come to the third step, or the third process, that is risk management process, that is select the appropriate risk management technique. So just now we discussed which are the appropriate risk management techniques. Either we have to select avoidance of risk, completely avoid the risk, or reduction of risk. The third one could be retention of risk. The fourth one could be a transfer of risk. Then after identifying or selecting the appropriate risk management technique, we will come to the fourth step, that is implement and monitor the risk management program. So what I do here, so after in the first step, I identify the loss exposure, then analyze the loss exposure. Then after analyzing the loss exposure, I select the appropriate risk management technique. Then finally, I will come to implement and monitor the risk management program. So what I do here, that is in the next step of implementation, all of the planned methods are followed for mitigating the effect of the risk. So either I purchase the insurance policies for the risk that have been decided to be transferred to an insurer, avoid all the risks that can be avoided without sacrificing the entity's goals, reduce others, and retain the rest. See, a risk management policy statement is a documentation of the risk involved in performing a specific action. The risk manager cannot be successful without assistance of other groups within the organization. So that is very, very important. So after understanding the risk management process, we'll try to know the advantages of risk management. See, what are the possible advantages of risk management? It encourages the firm to think about its threats, right? In particular, the risk management encourages it to analyze the risk that might otherwise be overlooked. Then the other advantage could be in clarifying the risk. It encourages the firm to be better prepared. Correct? In other words, it helps the firm to manage itself better. Then the next advantage of risk management is it lets the organization prioritize its investment and reduces internal disputes about how money should be spent. See, in March, when in the December when the COVID hit China, if people were knowing about this particular information, it's an external source of risk, right? So if someone had invested crores together amount in a new venture in the month of March 1st, and immediately by March 24th, it was a lockdown which was imposed in the country. So just imagine the amount of losses that the business has incurred, because the person who has taken the loan from the bank, he has to pay the EMIs. So just imagine the loss which is hampering the business here. Right? So advantages of risk management is what? It reduces the manpower duplication. Example, one manager can often oversee both the quality and environmental risk. So it encourages basically for the firm to think about its threats. Then it reduces the duplication of systems. Integration of environmental and health and safety systems are one instance. So these are some of the advantages of risk management. Okay, so I hope in today's session, whatever we have discussed, all of you have understood. In tomorrow's class, we'll try to understand the other techniques and risk identification methods. So students, I will end the today's session. I will be mailing the list of attendance and the recorded video later. Thank you so much for your patience listening once again.